Well, hello, listeners, and welcome back to the Arrowverse Crossover Crisis Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley, and today we will be talking about the Season 8, Episode 5 of the Flash Armageddon, Part 5. So this episode opens up with Joe on the phone with Barry from the end of last episode, only this time we see Joe. And I really like seeing Barry and Joe reunite. It hasn't been that long since we've had Joe on the show, but because we've been feeling Barry's emotions and his pain and how it's tormented him that he thought Joe had passed, it's a really good reunion between Barry and Joe. And then, of course, we get the reveal of Damien Dark, who was in last episode, and he and Thawne were brought through the new timeline with the Time Stone. And so we have Thawne and Damien Dark, and then because of the temporal energy, Mia Queen also comes through, or follows Damien Dark, or Reverse Flash. It's not 100% clear what she was doing. But, so we have Damien Dark, who kind of pops up in the beginning at the end of the episode, and we get Thawne, who is returned, but is fading away, kind of the way Barry was last episode. And so the whole episode is, do we save Thawne? And it brings up some really interesting kind of moral, philosophical questions that don't really get addressed hugely, but I do kind of like the way it all kind of pans out. Also, I don't really like the new suit design on the Reverse Flash. It's kind of made to mirror the new Flash suit for the season, so it's got like the little breathable mesh material, but I kind of don't really like it. It doesn't look as slick as the old Reverse Flash suit did. So again, we get Mia Queen showing up. She says she's looking for her brother. This apparently is something that was on the Arrow and the Canaries pilot, where Mia Queen becomes the Arrow in the future. But I never saw that, and I never really watched the last season of Arrow, so I'm not 100% familiar with this character, just with what she was in Crisis on Infinite Earth. She is very much like her father, Oliver, though. She's kind of angry, she's a little bitter, she's totally willing to kill a little bit, and she just comes in, and she's just brute force. And it makes for an interesting character, and it's very of a big contrast to Team Flash. And then, of course, Iris comes in and tells her, you don't have to do that. Your father learned a lesson. And then she kind of flips it back on Iris, and she tells Iris that, maybe you should just let Thawne die, because wouldn't your life be better if you did? And she kind of has a good point. And so, that's kind of one of the themes is, do they let Thawne die, or do they try to save his life? And I love the scene between Caitlin and Thawne when Thawne keeps telling her that she will save his life because she's a good guy, she's a doctor. But, this is not them killing Thawne, this is them just not preventing him from dying, I guess. It's a little different, he's going to die because of his own doing, but, that doesn't mean they have to save him. And so I do like that, she tells Thawne that she's totally okay with letting him die because she hates him so much and everything he's done to them, and that she doesn't have to save his life. And so it's a really great scene. I really like it. Daniel Pandabaker does a great job acting in that scene, and then of course always as Killer Frost. So I'm really happy every time they give Caitlin a little bit more depth and a little bit more to do. And so I kind of like this little slightly darker side to Caitlin, where she's like, yeah, you are the worst of the worst, and I'm totally okay with just letting you die. I don't have to save you. And then, of course, Barry wants to, know why Thawne, did the Reverse Flash and, what Barry ever did to him. And, Thawne tells him the story from the future. And Barry calls him out. He says, those motives are pretty small and petty. I don't know why you're so angry over that. And it kind of just reminded me of, didn't we get, Thawne's reveal at the end of Season 1? Didn't he reveal who he was and what Flash did to him in the future at the end of Season 1? Maybe we didn't, but I don't really remember. But I feel like this is all stuff that is should have been, if not already, was dealt with. And then also, why is Barry traveling 200 years in the future where Thawne is from? Why would he do that? Like, none of this really makes any sense. It all feels like stuff we should have had a long, long time ago. If not, we did have at the end of season 1. So I'm not really sure why we're, like, dredging all this stuff up. I mean, it's simple. Thawne did Reverse Flash because he hates Barry. Like, you don't need more motivation. We don't need this whole weird reveal thing. Like, he just hates Barry, and that's it. And even Thawne is like, he's like, it's just, I'm angry. It's beyond that, and it's my life now. So I don't know. It's kind of weird, but whatever. So Desparo tells Barry that he needs to kill Thawne, or at least let Thawne die, in order to prevent the Armageddon crisis, which was prevented by the Flash, but for some reason Desparo is convinced that if Reverse Flash is not killed, then he will create his own Armageddon, in which case, okay, Desparo will deal with that if that ever comes. I mean, this is about the Flash Armageddon, not Reverse Flash creating an Armageddon maybe someday in the future. So I don't really like, the way Desparo's sort of motives. I mean, do we need more motive to kill Thawne other than he is the worst evil guy ever? Like, I stop giving these weird motivations for everybody wanting Thawne dead. Like, he's the worst ever. We don't need Desparo trying to step in here and saying, what if maybe Reverse Flash will create Armageddon someday, possibly. We don't need that. It's just kill Thawne. He's the worst. But then, and so I do like that Barry, Iris, and Caitlin all decide that, we should just let Thawne die. I really like that because a lot of times, especially Iris, they do this a lot with Iris, but a lot of times they're just like, we don't kill and we don't let people die and we save and, we're capital G good all the time. And this is like Team Flash is always all about saving. But I do like that they recognize that, Thawne is the worst, and they have given him several chances and he's never changed. That, maybe their lives would be better if they just let him die. And again, they're not killing him, they're just not going to save him, prevent him from dying. He's dying, as Iris pointed out, on his own. Nothing, that they're doing to him, it's because of his own creations. So I really like that they're willing to kind of go that dark a little bit, because, I mean, first off, I don't want to see Thawne return anymore. I'm done with Reverse Flash character. I'm done with Tom Cavanaugh's version of Thawne. It's not threatening anymore. So let's just be done. So I was totally cool with them just letting him die. But then Joe comes out of nowhere, and he's like super, super angry with them and their decision. And to me, it kind of felt like a little bit out of character for Joe. Like, Joe knows how terrible Thawne is and the worst Thawne's done, and like he's yelling at Barry and Iris like they're little kids doing, the wrong thing or something. And they're grown adults, and they can make their own choices. And also, Thawne killed Barry's mom and is responsible for his dad being in prison for like 20 years and him growing up without parents. So, I think they can, Barry has a right to just be like, we're going to let Thawne die. Because Thawne is purely evil, and they absolutely should let him die. So I didn't really like Joe stepping in there. I mean, I understood Allegra and Chester's pacifist. Allegra's new to the team, and they gave her a chance. So I understand their sort of naivete when it comes to Thawne. But Joe should definitely not be the one so angry at them for just letting Thawne die. If anything, Joe should be the one, pulling the plug because of all the pain Thawne's caused Barry, Joe's, like, surrogate son. You would assume Joe would be the one that is like, let's do it. So to me, that whole scene was just a little bit too weird. And so then he talks them into it, so they change their mind, and, Barry, thinks that if they remove Thawne's powers, that will stop the temporal time thingy. I don't know how any of that works, but I guess, could they not have gotten, like, Dion involved or something, and, like, Dion could, like, stepped in and been like, hey, I can help out here. So then Barry decides that, he can take away Thawne's connection to the Speed Force because Jefferson Pierce, aka Black Lightning, was able to generate enough electricity to remove the Speed Force out of Barry, which we saw in the third episode. So, and we showed that Barry can, I think it was the second episode, that Barry can generate, he's leveled up. He can generate a huge amount of lightning and electricity. And so now he has Black Lightning powers. Although I wish they would have brought Black Lightning back in here for this. He doesn't have his own show, so he didn't have, I don't know what his scheduling issues could have been, but they should have brought him back here one more time just to help out again. And I kind of wish they would, but we did establish that Barry can generate this kind of electricity, so he's going to try and remove Thawne's connection to the Speed Force. But of course, Desparo does not want that. He wants Thawne dead, so he sort of mind control recruits Mia Queen to help him kill Thawne, and so she tries to go and take out Team Flash while Arrow is fighting Desparo. And we actually get like a cool trick arrow from her where she has like an arrow that produces like the canary scream or something, like a big sonic shock, and takes out Killer Frost and Allegra. And so she's trying to take out Team Flash, and we finally get Desparo as the villain of Armageddon, which he was always supposed to be, but only now is he like, I'm going to step in and take charge and be the villain and fight the Flash. Yeah, you should have been doing that from the beginning, Desparo. So we finally get the Flash and Desparo fighting again since, I think, the first episode. And it's kind of just a big CGI fight. CGI is not too great, but it's overall the fight choreography is really good. I liked it. And so Team Flash kind of snaps Mia Queen back out of Desparo's control, which I always find these, like, it's so easy to, like, slip out of the mind control. Like, all you'd have to do is just believe in yourself and fight really hard, and you can overcome it. I mean, if that's the case, why does anybody mind control anybody if it's that easy for them to get out of it? Like, it's not just the Flash; it's a lot of other shows. Marvel does this too. Like, it's so easy for people just to not be mind controlled anymore, and I don't like that. But anyway, so Mia Queen is back on Team Flash again, and Barry needs something to, I guess Desparo's using the Flame of Pytar to he wants to sort of wipe out Central City. So Desparo's plan is to create a mini Armageddon in Central City in order to prevent a big Armageddon, maybe possibly someday. It makes no sense. He's clearly the villain. He's always been the villain. I wish we would have had him doing more villainous things throughout the Armageddon event. But so Barry needs some way to kind of get rid of the Flame of Pytar, redirect it into the atmosphere. And so this is where Barry finally gets the gold boots. So Chester is the one that made Barry the Flash gold boots, because I'm not 100% sure. I'm not sure why they help Barry redirect the Flame of Pytar, or how they help out. And I don't know why Chester made them in the first place. But they work. Somehow Barry is able to redirect the Flame of Pytar into the air, and then it looks like maybe like Desparo burned up or something. Like, did he die? Did he just vanish? Did the flame consume him? He says he lost his connection to the flame. I don't know what that means. Does he return to his homeworld? He just burns up and disappears. Okay. So then the Flash is able to take away Thawne's speed, and of course Thawne is nothing without his speed, and so he's super pissed. He wanted to live with his speed, not just live. So to him, they have taken away his life, basically, because he's nothing without his speed. And they say that he gets locked up in Argus. They mention Cisco's name. So there goes Thawne, and hopefully he doesn't get his speed and come back next season like he probably will. But the show ends with Team Flash and Mia Queen at some sort of fancy bar that they must have rented out for the night because nobody else is there. And they all get dressed up in their best cocktail outfits, and they look really, really nice, actually. Everybody looks really good. But then we get Damien Dark again. So Damien Dark did not disappear like Thawne would have done. So he gives Joe some sort of stone or rock or something. I'm not sure what that means or what that's going to be for eventually. But that's what his unfinished business was. So once he does that, he kind of goes into limbo for a little bit, where he gets to see his daughter Nora one last time before she takes his place, and then all of a sudden she pops up, and Joe. I like that Joe, becomes the fatherly figure immediately and just takes over, and it's like, let me talk to you. And again, I don't know this Nora character. I never watched Legends or Arrow, so I think she's the Nora that marries or is with Ray Palmer. So I'm not 100% sure how that works in this new timeline, if they are still together, if they were together, if they're going to be together. we don't know. I wish we would have gotten Ray come back again for this episode. I think that would have been really cool. I gotta say, overall, this Flash Armageddon was a decent storyline, but it really let down the crossover characters. I think maybe with the exception of Black Lightning, I did love his scenes with Barry, and I wish we would have gotten more with him. But and they did a good job with Ray in the first episode too. But they really, like, Mia Queen barely hardly does anything here. She doesn't really get a character arc. Iris kind of gives her a tip that might help her find her brother at the end, but she doesn't really do much. She's partly an antagonist, mind controlled by Desparo, and then she's like angry, and she shows up, in the cocktail dress at the end, and that's about it. That's all she does. And then last episode, of course, we had Batwoman and Alex Danvers and Ryan Choi, the new Adam, and they barely did anything either. And so it's been kind of a little bit of a letdown with these sort of side crossover characters. They don't really get too much to do. I know it might have been hard scheduling conflicts and stuff, but it's almost like, either give them something to do or just don't have them there. Like, I don't know why. It does kind of make it feel like it reminds you that, yeah, this is all a connected universe and that these characters do know each other and they may or may not hang out off screen. But give them something to do. Do a little bit more. Give them a little bit more screen time. I just wish we had a little bit more. And I really wish they would have brought Black Lightning back for this episode again to help out. Maybe even Ray Palmer. Yeah, it's that and Despero being not a good villain has been the weakest parts of this Flash Armageddon. The best part, I actually think, is Barry and probably Cecile. They get quite a bit to do. Cecile kind of goes through a lot, actually, because she thought Joe was dead this whole time. And Iris had some good stuff in here. Caitlin, I think this was probably Caitlin's best episode. We finally pay off Chester and Allegra's awkward flirting. Well, sort of. I mean, they continue to awkwardly flirt, but I think now it's kind of obvious they're going to get together, and they almost even know it too. So there's been kind of some weird side stuff going on, but I really did enjoy this Armageddon event. I think it was a decent storyline. It really could have been wrapped up in 3 episodes, though. The first 3 episodes I thought were pretty good, and this last, and Despero was kind of the main villain. I mean, he was the main villain, but he was actually maybe doing a little bit more. But these last 2 episodes with the throwing in Reverse Flash in there, it just kind of muddied everything a little bit. Kind of lost focus of the Armageddon event. So I think it could have been a nice tight 3 episodes, and maybe we could have, used the side characters a little bit better, the crossover characters, I mean. So, but overall, I really enjoyed the Flash Armageddon. I think it's a much better start to the season than Season 7 was. Hopefully we can continue, and it will continue to be a good season. The little teaser sting at the end is that we get a close-up shot of the crew from CCPD, and I believe there's a shot with Eddie Thawne, who was Iris's romantic love in the very first season of The Flash. And of course, he's obviously a great descendant, or Thawne, Eobard Thawne, to Eobard Thawne. But I think he was in that picture. But then, of course, we see Nora and Bart Allen appear in that picture. So they're clearly messing with the timeline. We met them at the end of last season. They're coming back again. Even Iris mentions that they pop up all the time. I really don't like bringing in the kids from the future. I just think that's too weird. I think it doesn't play well with the rules of the timeline. It just muddies everything, and I don't like it. I mean, I guess we have to have it because the show's not going to go on for another 20 years, and we're going to see Barry and Iris, raising their kids. So we want to show their kids now, but couldn't we just go to the future then and see them? I don't know why they're always coming back into the past. To me, it feels like it breaks some of those time rules that Barry was trying to avoid for so long. So anyway, I might see them pop up, I guess, but it doesn't really, excite me that much. Nora was an okay character in season 5. Didn't really like her reappearance last season. And I didn't really care for Bart Allen either. So I'm not too super excited about that. But we'll see where the rest of the season goes. And then, of course, Barry gets the gold boots in this episode, so I assume those are going to be part of his costume going forward. They kind of look cool, but I think they're a different shade of gold than what he has on his costume already, so it kind of looks a little bit off, like it doesn't match perfectly, I think. But this still is like one of the best Flash costumes they've had on the show. I still really love the Season 2, Season 3 costume. I think I always will. And I even really like the Season 4 costume. But I think this costume is probably the best, actually. In terms of at least comic accuracy, it's definitely the best. The red is nice and bright. The gold piping on this costume is a lot more visible. And there's a little bit of padding in the chest area. Not too much, but then also Grant Gustin has worked out a lot, so he fills the costume out a little bit better, and then he has the gold boots now. So I think this is probably one of the best versions of the Flash costume that we've had on the show. The worst was that Season 5 costume, though. That was the worst. But yeah, so I really enjoyed this new costume. I think a lot. I didn't like the updated Reverse Flash suit, though. I just think that looked a little bit off. But so we'll see. But anyway, so that's kind of my thoughts about the Flash Armageddon Part 5. Again, I really enjoyed the Flash the Armageddon crossover event. Sorry, stumbling over my words. But again, I wish Desparo was maybe a better, more proactive antagonist than he is. Again, love Tony Curran in the role. He's kind of hamming it up a little bit towards the end. But yeah, I mean, maybe we'll get more Desparo in the future. Hopefully they write him a little bit better, give him more due. But overall, I really enjoyed the Flash Armageddon. I thought it started off really strong, kind of ended a little bit weak. But again, I loved seeing Black Lightning in there. I like seeing some of the other side crossover characters. I just wish they had more to do. I like Iris. The sort of new Central. What's Iris's media company name? The Citizen, Central Citizen, or just the Citizen. I like seeing her kind of empire that she's built a little bit. And and all that stuff that we kind of got in like the first episode and the second, and I think it kind of dropped off the last couple episodes. But anyway, so there was some good stuff in here. I think there was some good. We could have probably lost the whole Chester Allegra romantic subplot. We could have maybe saved that for the rest of season 8, and maybe given some better screen time to the crossover characters. But it is what it is, and it was cool. I didn't really like the the Royal Flush Gang from the first episode. They were terrible. Thank God they didn't come back. They're in them terrible card puns. I kind of liked the telepathic character villain from the second episode. She was fairly decent. And then Despero, I think, and we got Top was kind of like a little. Well, she was just a sub character in that third episode. Despero was the main villain, but it was kind of nice to see her come back. I think they said she didn't die, so maybe she could return again sometime. I liked her and Cecile interactions, and seeing kind of their powers that they're similar yet different was really cool. So yeah, so that's all my my thoughts about the Flash Armageddon Part 5, and just the way they handled the Armageddon event. So that will be it for the podcast for now, until they do maybe another big crossover sometime, or until we get more crossover characters on the Flash maybe. We're not really sure when the Flash is going to end, if this is the last season or not. So maybe if it does, maybe they'll have a big crossover later. So that might be it for the Arrowverse Crossover Crisis Podcast. I'm not sure if I'll be doing any more podcasts. I may or may not consider doing a podcast for the Arrowverse as a whole. If that's something you want to hear, let me know. But that's going to be it for this episode of the Arrowverse Crossover Crisis Podcast. And maybe next time, if there is a next time, I'll catch you in the next crisis. Thank you for listening to the podcast. And if you want to talk more DC or Marvel television shows, be sure to follow me on Twitter at Crashly87. That's CRASHLIE 87. For all you book lovers out there, be sure to check out my blog, Fantastic Literature Reviews, all about book reviews and short story reviews. Link in the description below. And if you like the podcast, be sure to leave a comment and share it with your friends. Thank you.